The 22nd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1951, stands as a fundamental limitation on executive power, restricting any person from being elected to the presidency more than twice. The constitutional provision explicitly states, "No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice," and further stipulates that anyone who assumes the office for more than 2 years of an unexpired term may only be elected once more. The amendment formalized an unwritten tradition established by George Washington and followed by every president for over 150 years, but which had been dramatically broken by Franklin D. Roosevelt's unprecedented 4 election victories between 1932 and 1944. The core issue debated by this amendment's proponents and critics is the balance between preserving democratic choice and preventing the dangerous concentration of power. Proponents view it as an essential safeguard against the rise of an elective monarchy, a president so entrenched that the office effectively becomes a lifetime appointment, threatening the system of checks and balances. Critics argue the amendment is inherently undemocratic because it prevents the majority of voters from electing the candidate they believe is best suited for the job, especially during periods of crisis or high public approval. This tension defines the 22nd Amendment's contentious place in American political structure. Reasons and consequences. Historical and political reasons. The primary reason for the amendment's passage was the political reaction to the exceptional longevity of Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency. In 1940, with the U.S. facing the Great Depression and the global crisis of World War II, Roosevelt defied the 2-term precedent, arguing that continuous, experienced leadership was necessary for national security. His subsequent re-elections in 1940 and 1944, and his death only weeks into his 4th term, alarmed congressional Republicans and many Democrats who feared executive overreach. The motivation behind the 22nd Amendment was fundamentally political. It was championed by a Republican-controlled Congress that, having been unable to defeat Roosevelt at the polls, sought to prevent any future president, regardless of party, from achieving a similar level of institutional dominance. The aim was to safeguard the rotational nature of the executive branch and prevent any single individual from accumulating so much power that they could dismantle constitutional norms or checks. Structural and political consequences. The consequences of the 22nd Amendment are far-reaching and structural. The most prominent political effect is the creation of the lame duck period. Once a president begins their 2nd term, they are no longer dependent on the electorate, and their political capital begins to diminish. This predictability can embolden rivals in Congress, who may obstruct or challenge the president's agenda, knowing that the chief executive cannot directly face the voters for a 3rd time. From a governance perspective, the term limit creates both losses and benefits. It ensures fresh perspectives and new leadership every 4 to 8 years, preventing stagnation and the entrenchment of personnel within the executive branch. However, it also strips the nation of its most experienced leader precisely when that experience might be most valuable, such as during a prolonged war, economic disaster, or international conflict. Critics argue that forcing a highly competent and popular president to leave office constitutes a self-imposed limitation on the country's ability to respond effectively to sustained crises. Prediction and solutions. Likelihood of repeal and future debates. The 22nd Amendment remains a hotly debated topic, but the prediction for its outright repeal is low. To amend the U.S. Constitution requires a supermajority. 2/3 of both the House and the Senate must approve the proposal, followed by ratification by 3/4, 38, of the state legislatures. Given the current deep partisan divisions in American politics, achieving such overwhelming consensus on an issue that directly affects the power of the presidency is virtually impossible. Past efforts to repeal or modify the amendment, even those supported by former presidents like Harry S. Truman and Ronald Reagan, have failed. Moving forward, debates are more likely to center on potential modifications rather than full repeal. One frequently proposed solution is to allow for non-consecutive terms. This change would permit a president to run again after a period out of office, allowing the electorate to recall experienced leadership without creating a continuous years-long tenure. Alternative scenarios. Legal scholars also debate scenarios involving a twice-elected president serving in a non-elected capacity. Since the amendment only bars a person from being elected more than twice, some suggest that a former two-term president could potentially serve as vice president and then assume the presidency through the line of succession, e.g., if the elected president resigns or is incapacitated. However, the 12th Amendment specifies that a person ineligible for the presidency is also ineligible for the vice presidency, creating a legal hurdle. Nonetheless, the continued existence of the 22nd Amendment ensures that the debate over executive power, democracy, and term duration will remain a vibrant and recurring element of American political discussion.